Let's talk about the Biden hearing on Capitol Hill. Republican Senators John Cornyn and Eric Schmidt, they are accusing Biden's inner circle, top Democrats, and the media of covering up former president's cognitive decline in the final years of administration. This hearing, which was mostly boycotted by the Democrats, by the way, they didn't go to it, is raising serious questions about transparency, accountability, and who was really running the country. Let's bring in Dave Dulio, Director of the Center for Civic Engagement and Political Science Professor at Oakland University. Good morning, Dave. How are you?
I'm well, Kevin. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here. So Democrats have been saying on this issue, we're looking forwards, not backwards. But is it appropriate? Is it necessary? Is it the right thing to do to look back at the last couple of years of President Joe Biden's administration?
Well, in many respects, this is a political game, right, where Republicans are engaging in an attempt to cast a doubt and cast a shadow over the last couple of years of the Biden presidency. But at the same time, I think there are legitimate questions about, who was signing particular documents, who was in the room, right? I mean, the recent book by one of the I think it's Jake Tapper, right? His book has really done, I think, a lot more damage to President Biden than Republicans have, right? Because it's this journalist, CNN, who's normally on on Biden's side, right? Who's saying all these same things and really bringing these questions to the fore. But the I think the end of the story is the most important part, which is, okay, if these senators uncover something, what are we going to do about it? I find it difficult to see a path where, let's just pick an example. A pardon was canceled because there are, doubts about, did the president actually sign it, or was it the auto pen? So to some extent, I think it's a question of to what end.
I care about this stuff. I still want to know what was going on in Ronald Reagan's final year. They say his mental health was declining, and some say Nancy Reagan was calling the shots. I don't know who was calling the shots, but I feel it's appropriate to find out, because this is going to happen again. It can happen again for a number of reasons. Remember the military leader who disappeared for a few days for a surgery and didn't tell anybody. It's like there's a system in place. If Joe Biden wasn't up for the job, then Kamala Harris should have been brought in to take over, at least temporarily, if that was the situation. But do the people care, or do they just say, this is just politics? This is just an opportunity for the Republicans to try and score some points?
Well, I think it depends who you ask, and before I address that, let me say I think you're exactly right. It is important, and I think that you used a word earlier, transparency, that it is really heightened here. Where say with the Congress, we are able to see Congress at work, right? Thanks to C-SPAN and all the reporters that are in the press galleries, in not only the chambers, but in hearing rooms, et cetera. We get all sorts of information about the Congress. We get relatively little about the presidency, right? Because much of what happens is behind closed doors. And that's not to say that, everything should be out in the open, but, we need to have, I think, some trust in our political leaders that they are going to be transparent about certain things. And this episode certainly raises questions about whether that was the case during the last years of the Biden administration. I do think that it depends who you ask whether people care about it or not. Republicans absolutely care about it, from a political standpoint, right? They are, this is red meat for the base. Democrats do not care about it, and they would rather, as you said, look forward and have it be water under the bridge. The folks in the middle, they don't care about it either, but for other reasons, because they got other things to worry about. They are busy with their summer vacation plans and figuring out what they're going to do with their kids who are off of school and those sorts of things.
Yeah. So I guess what would make people care more or pay attention more is if there was some solid evidence. Do these hearings present or do they bring forward solid evidence, or is it just more allegations and accusations?
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see how things play out. But a lot of these hearings on Capitol Hill, and you know this, Kevin, having watched politics for a long time, right? That there's a lot of grandstanding that goes on, right? There's a lot of performance that goes on, right? So, and that's kind of what I mean about, to what end is there going to be a smoking gun that says, boy, yeah, look at that. There's no way that President Biden was in full control, and I just have a hard time seeing how that plays out.
Yeah, I was in Washington, D.C. when Rick Snyder was called to testify in the Flint water hearing, and the room was empty except when it was someone's turn to talk. Then they came in and talked, and then they immediately left. Didn't listen to any of the other testimony. I'm like, how can this be? Is it a good look for Democrats to boycott this hearing and just say it's not even worthy of our time, or should they go in there and make their point?
Well, and you make a really good point there. I mean, most of the hearing rooms when the testimonies being taken and being heard, as well as when on the floor when speeches are being given, there's nobody else there, right? So that it is in that sense, it's almost purely performative. But which is a change from decades ago when these sessions were used as true information gathering sessions and opportunities, right? To really hear from experts, to hear from people who maybe were part of a particular event or organization or what have you, right? But these days it's really just about making your statement and then getting out of Dodge to maybe go to another meeting or talk to some constituents and that's not totally fair to members of Congress because they are pulled in so many different directions. But it really is a strain on their time. But you'd think for something that important, you'd want your folks to be there and really try to figure out the truth. Is it a bad look for Democrats? Well, again, it depends who you ask. I mean, I think that base Democrats probably say, yeah, good for you. Stand up to those Republicans. Fight that Trump administration. And then others are like, what do you mean you didn't show up?
Yeah. Dave Giulio, Director of Center Civic Engagement and Political Science Professor at Oakland University. Appreciate you coming on and talking about it this morning.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, it's interesting to me, boy. I tell you, the Republicans pushing hard to find out where Biden was at, but to what end? So that they can change some of the laws or reverse some of the things that he did, or do they really want guardrails moving forward to protect this from ever happening again? Do you think they want to make changes so that Donald Trump has to be more transparent about where he's at in his health? I don't trust that anybody in Washington, D.C. is really trying to solve the problems, but I wish they would. We have to take a quick break. We'll be right back. It's All Talk. I'm Kevin Deitz.